Hi, hi. It's Tabitha Mudra
Giovanna Espinal.
and Gio was the production designer and costume designer of Pitbulls and Piranhas. It's already been nearly a year, not quite, since production. But Gio, tell us, who are you and what did you do?
So, production design for me is building the world that the character lives in. So, wherever they're sleeping, wherever they're eating, whatever they're doing, handling, whatever's around them, that's what I'm creating. And I feel like costume design is creating the character itself. And so, whatever they're wearing and whatever they have on them, if they're gonna go jogging, they're gonna need jogging clothes, and I need to make sure that it fits them and it looks good on them and it looks good in their surroundings and that it makes sense. Because if the character has a lot of money, they're going to be wearing some fancy joggers, and I need to make sure that it makes sense for their character and the world that they live in, and that it coincides well.
Let's talk about the world that we were living in Pitbulls and Piranhas. How we went to a lot of thrift stores, a lot of secondhand, online and physically.
Yeah. Yeah, it was tricky because it's a period piece, and you can't find that anywhere. So anything that made sense in that time was going to be like some cut off shorts or um what else? It is tricky because that time was like that mesh, like kind of almost Madonna, but it's also not that family's area where they lived at. It was very poor, so they were gonna have like a lot of rundown stuff. So for yeah, so I had to find a lot of like almost worn out things, and in even some new things that I can wear out myself, like the ribbed white tank top that he wore at some point. It was like all sweaty and nasty, and I think we ended up putting that on one of the extras for the dog fight.
Mm-hmm.
Or actually, no, that was for, well, I don't want to give anything away, but he had he had it on with the plaid
Yeah, the flannel.
buttons, the flannel. Yeah,
Yeah, there was a lot of going through many, many racks at the secondhand store. Um, what goes on like behind the scenes in what you're doing? So I know you and I started talking months before production because it's a period piece. We couldn't just Amazon it and return it. It was many things had to be purchased because they were period specific, either 70s or potential 80s. Again, this was a lower class family, so they didn't have new things. They would have had things from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. So tell me what happened behind the scenes. There were long lists of props. There were links to everything. What happens behind the scenes?
there's a lot of research. It's a lot of fun, but it can be overwhelming because then you find something that you love, but then you find something else that you love, and then it's like, what is going to work better for this character? So just a lot of research first. For me, getting in the head of the characters is reading the script, of course, maybe like more than once, definitely more than once, and then reading the character bios, like what would this person, how can I add meaning to this person's life every single day, and how can I add emphasis to some of their bad habits in their costumes and in their background. So definitely a lot of research, making lists on what I think might work well for certain scenes, and if I need to like switch it around and move it for another scene. um a lot of lists, definitely a lot of lists.
What was something, there were a few things for me that stick out as odd props. We had a pregnancy belly. Those are very expensive. We still have it should anyone need a realistic
Yeah.
pregnancy.
Very heavy and very heavy. Very
And,
realistic.
and then
um,
I really loved that we got smash glass, like specific sugar grade glass that would break. So it's Hollywood approved, made out of wild things in a factory. Um,
yes.
and then there was the money. We had
Yeah.
have authentic 1980s represented money.
Mhm.
Because in two scenes, we're counting money and we're handing over money. And if people would have seen current day face money, it would be like, well,
It would be
that's
on and
how
off.
money looked
Yeah.
back then. So we were able to find we also had a wild prop. We had a gun on set. Um, the safest gun I think you could possibly have on a
Oh
set,
yeah.
a
Yeah.
filled barrel gun that we got from a theater company, rental company. What are some of the props that stand out to you?
I mean, they're not as important, but I really liked. Well, I wouldn't consider them a prop. They're more like dressing. Like I would say the biggest one was probably the master prop, which is the piranha. The
Mhm.
piranhas that we had, those were definitely, they were a handful. They were scary. Not scary because they were gonna bite us, because the what were they called? Paku?
Paku.
Yeah. So because piranha are illegal in Florida, we had to get the most, the what was in the family, and we got Paku. You were able to find Paku, thankfully. They were just scary because it's like I've never had fish before, and how are we gonna get it to make sure that it survives the entire way through in case any reshoots? And they were a handful. So I think it was the day before we actually filmed the scene. We got the fish tank, and we had to adjust the water temperature and everything. It was a whole thing. So we brought the fish tank first. We got the water and made sure that it was room temperature, specific temperature, to make sure they don't die. And then by the next morning, when the fish were brought in, they were able to adjust, thankfully. Those were a really big deal. They
They
were,
were a huge deal because they're living,
yeah,
and no animals or fish were harmed in the making of this film. So, and that's because everyone was so nervous
yeah,
and overprotective of every detail that the animals and fish needed.
yeah.
Um, it was incredible. Absolutely. Let's watch the fish scene real fast. I have it right here. And that's not an edited scene, that's an assistant edit. So the edited scene is very different. It has color and edit, lots of effects, and it's pretty wild. But that is what we took just raw from the back of the camera. And you had your hands full of water and fish.
Yeah.
Oh, and there was so much preparation for that, including the weight. It then,
Oh
this
yeah.
is an environment that's not used to holding that much water weight. And yeah, there was a number of considerations during that scene for sure.
Yeah, I brought in a wooden nightstand, a really heavy one, to make sure that it would hold up the fish tank with all the water and all the fish, and it would not move unless like four people were able to carry it at the same time because it was just so heavy.
Hmm. Yeah, that was a wild day. Another question, in the same tune, is what challenges did you face on the project, and how did you overcome them? We had a lot of challenges.
Yeah. Yeah, Mother Nature isn't too kind. In Florida and South Florida in the summer. The first day was probably the hardest because of I mean, we just weren't, the weather, it was so hot. It was so hot. Um, the heat, definitely, and just being the apartment that we filmed, the trailer that we filmed in for that scene that we just watched, it was so tiny, and we all couldn't be in there at the same time. and it was just really, really hot, and it just all of us being in there and mushed up like sardines. It was really difficult. That was, I would say that that's probably um I, that would be like a physical challenge. The biggest challenge was, I think, my own like fears and like what can happen, and just my own self-doubt, things like that. And I think the way that I was able to overcome it is just take it day by day and just over prepare to be able to avoid anything that might come up on set.
Watching your wizardry on set was fantastic. You took on obviously the two hats that you have under your name, so production designer and costume design, which were discussed. But then there was a little thing called like special effects, like adding sweat and dirt. And you were just like, I know how to do this. I'm going to get in there and I'm going to make it happen. So it was so wonderful to watch you switch hats every few minutes. You had to be in a new role. You were getting it all set up, and then you were now we're managing whatever details with the actors. Oh, now we're managing the sweat. Oh, now we're so you were just nonstop. It was really a delight because you did it with a smile the whole time. Never did you go, oh, this is too much, or oh, this is too hot, or never a complaint. And it was a really tricky environment. Both environments that we were in were hellacious. You saw them before. I made sure to bring core crew and just expose them to the kind of clown car situation we were at one location, and then the vastness and the bugs and the mud and the sun that we would be in the other one. So I would say Mother Nature and the environments really played their part. But everyone who rode through it. So I'm so grateful because the scenes look intimate.
Oh yeah.
You know? There's an added element of intimacy when you are that close.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about, let's see here. I had pulled up number 8 is, so this is a scene that's outside. We have all the space in the world. Tell me what you did here.
Manna from heaven.
Oh my gosh.
A lot of props.
Oh yeah. So that was just basically a junkyard that had really, what we had to work with was the trailer and the trees that were there. And it was kind of like I want to say it was a gold mine for, crafty people like me, because I was able to run around and see what can I work with, what can I stick in here to emphasize like these are like kind of junkyard people, So really the trees were already there and the trailer was already there. So I added the clothesline, and just threw up the clothes that we were already working with. And the grill we had to bring in because obviously they're grilling. I was able to find, thankfully, some broken chairs, like an old table. I found some really good plates for the steak plate, brought in some steak, some tongs. I wanted to emphasize the time that they were in, their environment, what type of people they are. Obviously, if they care about their appearance and their things, they would take care of these things, or the things that they're using. But his focus is more on, I don't know if I can say, his focus is more on other things, not like clothes or his table and stuff like that. Like his focus is on one or two things. Mm-hmm. I don't want to give anything away, so I don't want to say, but once you see the movie, you'll see what he's focused on.
Yeah, he's an offbeat character and his moral compass is very skewed. So he's not concerned with what we would consider normal things. He has a very specific point of view and ammunition, or like motivation towards what he wants.
Mhm.
And I saw a little radio. I saw beer. Not only was the beer can there where it doesn't have a label on it, which is very important for filming, but he took the liberty of throwing it, spitting it out of his mouth and adding this kind of like element of surprise to the scene.
Yeah.
And then there was that money again, that good old fashioned fake money from the 80s.
Yeah.
It's funny, we got like, I think it was like $200 or $300, but it cost like $50 to get $300
Yeah. Yeah.
of fake money, which I think is a actual legality. You are only supposed to use film money in films. So tisk tisk, we did it.
And I kind of want to talk about like what went into that and why, just so people know, why can't you use real beer? And it's because we have to get all these permission and clearances and everything to use specific brands. So we can't just have beer there because that costs a lot of money. So I got some like canned beer. And I think it was Alejandro, my prop master's idea, to like sand off the label instead of like getting a new label and doing all this, putting more money into it, because we were on a very tight budget. So we sanded off the brand and it made it look older. We had to dump the beer, refill them with water so that they're not, getting drunk on set. We're keeping everybody safe. So yeah, that was really great thinking. I'm so happy that he thought of that, because it was really expensive to get prop beer. And so yeah. And then the money that we got, when they print it, it's like a faint green, like a very pale white and green. And again, it's older, so it's supposed to be in another time. So I wanted to make it look like used old money. So I had fun kind of crinkling all that up and like tinting it a little bit at home. And like I went through a few different like trial and error process. So yeah, aging that as well, because when you put things in front of camera, the camera makes it look different. So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, these particular characters wouldn't have crisp, clean new money. They would have some older, grungy, used up kind of.
They definitely don't have a bank account. No. So they would not have new money. No.
No, for sure. What was your favorite part about being on set?
Man, I think it's just being around so many creative people. Everybody comes from a different background, like creatively and, just everywhere in general. And so just like learning from everyone, all my peers, like picking their brains and like seeing what they're up to, what they want to do, what they have working. Because getting other people to talk about it, their things, maybe kind of puts a little bit of a push for them to start working on their own projects. And then them asking us like, hey, do you need help on anything? That gets us like flowing too, because then we don't only just want to be working on other people's projects. Eventually I want to work on my own as well. And like talking to my peers, that really, really helps. It's a really great motivation. So definitely talking to my crewmates and my peers and talking. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a great craft service. We had nice lunches with plenty of time to socialize with everyone. And that was really great. I was so grateful for that. I love having good craft services. But what was I going to say in regards to that? Oh, you were a complete happy accident, because what had happened was there was someone who I really had in mind for this role. Super was like, they're the one, done and done. And then I reached out and they were working on their personal passion project and were so busy and just could not get the time. So I reached out to a couple production folks and I said, hey, does anyone know anyone who is solid in art department? At this point, I wasn't even thinking about wardrobe. I was just knew we needed so many props and time was of the essence. And you were recommended so many, you know, like it was like ching ching, ping ping. I was like, okay, I will contact Giovanna.
That makes you feel nice. Oh,
Yeah. And I think a lot of you all went to school together.
we did, but it's insane how small Miami is because we went to the same school, but I went to the school at a different time from them. I was still thinking corporate and then not realizing like, you know, this is where my heart is. And eventually I met everyone one by one on different sets. And that's, yeah, we were definitely all meant to meet each other because it's crazy how, you know, we were brought together.
Yeah, I'm so grateful. And you were saying, what did you just say? It was so great, where your heart is. Your heart is in this specific role. Which role?
I'm really drawn to production design, but production design art department, but I've been kind of like tugged at wardrobe and costumes because they're different types of challenges, and that's what I love. I want something exciting that's gonna keep me going. And like, what can I do differently? What can I learn from this? And that's what's exciting to me. And when I say where my heart is, it's definitely in film because I always wanted to do this, but it just didn't seem realistic because everyone we are growing up, a lot of the people that were successful at this did not look like me. They were old white people, or, you know, they came from money, or, you know, they had a foot in the door, and that's not me. And so it just didn't seem very realistic at all. But then I just couldn't find the career path that made me happy. And I was just like, let me go back to school. And I was like, oh my gosh, you know, my heart was pitter pattering every time that I would go to class and learn something new with film. And yeah, it's been a journey.
Good. I know film got me in 2013. No, yes, 2013, and then really hooked me in 2015. And all because the camera, they started making digital cameras with a little button that said, you can now film, like, you can record video. And I was like, what do you mean? I can make it move? You know, I've been a still photographer for 20 years at that point, and amateur and professional. I just fell in love with it. There's something so magical about the whole process, but being on set has an extra level of excitement because you're actually in it, making the scenes. But it's nothing short of a miracle that we're here at the screening moment where it's gone through post-production and we're getting ready to go into film festival, and it'll be the first look for cast and crew on the 28th. It's just so exciting.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Well, if you remember, what was your favorite scene to film and why?
Oh yeah. I miss Deb's house. Without a doubt. No question. Miss Deb's house. It was already such a great place to film because the owner of the house had like this time capsule of a place. The walls, the floors, everything was just from a very specific time. And I was like super excited. But I also had more room to get creative and add things because that's just her character. She had more things. She was more financially wealthy. And at Sherry's house, she didn't, I was more taking things away. And like, and really taking things away because they didn't have much. And I felt like I can play around with the idea of adding some type of like hidden things or maybe foreshadowing into Miss Deb's house. And I loved it. I could not wait for that scene.
Let me show a clip from Miss Deb's house. It's and also that particular scene, I had a really what do you call it? Like a lightning thought. And then now I've just done forgot it. Oh, well, let's show the scene. Tell us what your role was in this scene.
Okay, sweetie. Your plate goes like this.
I love that scene.
And we have 3 perspectives. So there's the wide on both of them, the 2 shot, and then we have 2 single shots. And so what's behind each character is so specifically placed and procured. And so we couldn't see that there, but in the actual film, you get to see everything in little bits and pieces. But there's a lot going on in that scene.
Yeah.
Tell me.
So it's kind of like a power dynamic between Miss Deb and Sam and Samantha. And I guess my challenges were like, well, aside from finding things from a specific time and type of person, was like, how can I make sure everything is seen? I don't want things to like click clack and then it's gonna be a sound problem. I think that was one of my biggest concerns, is like the silverware and the plates there's gonna be so much banging and those like little things. But I wanted to make sure I added emphasis on the type of person that Miss Deb was. Miss Deb is like, I bring all the good things out at any given moment. It's not just like, oh, when specific people are here. It's no, I want everyone to know, this is what I have and these are my nice things. And yeah, I wanted to make sure everything was seen and that I added meaning to everything.
That was she's an intense character. In Mia Bella's interview, Mia Bella calls her the serious clown, I think.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. How fitting.
Mia Bella's interview was the yes interview. It was like 10 minutes, short and sweet. But she's
so funny.
Her the serious clown.
That is so perfect. I don't want, not to give anything away, but there's some of that in the background of where they're at.
Oh, that's true. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, even subconsciously. This is a little wild question. What advice would you give your younger self in respect to your role on set? Or the advice you'd give to someone looking to get into your area, specifically production design and costume?
Take the job.
Yeah.
Take the job. Yeah. Take the job. Ask the questions. Do the things that you're not gonna think that anyone's watching, but there's always someone watching. Just do the things that that someone else won't take the initiative to. There's always someone watching. You're gonna learn something at any given point that you're like, whether it's for yourself or for the set. And everything you do, you're gonna learn something. It's about the experience. So take the job, ask the questions, talk to the people, just get out there, and you're gonna have fun. You'll be fine. Don't worry.
Yeah. Take the job. I like that. It's a very direct, like, say yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, don't get caught up too much in the if you have enough experience or not enough experience. Just take the job.
Yeah.
They obviously see something in you or know you can do it. Like there's many times where I would much rather someone who has the energy for it than someone who's super experienced but might not have the right attitude.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So it goes away.
Yeah, I'd rather be around people that want to learn and do the things and be around you and be on set and they're willing to do the hard work because they want to learn and they want to be there. There's some people who have already done so much that they're just tired and they don't. You're just like, oh, we got to pick this up and oh, we got to do that. And it's production design and our department is very
tough.
Yeah,
demanding.
Expensive.
Demanding.
Yeah.
And you guys are there typically, quite early and typically one of the last to leave.
Yeah.
Locations is typically right before you to take all the photos, and then you're doing the same thing, taking all the photos and removing everything and putting it back. And that's another big element is the video and photos. When you go into a space, you oftentimes recreate the whole space.
Yeah.
So making sure that you put the owner's things back to exactly how they had it. We had such a lovely time with our rentals because every one of the owners said everything was perfect.
Oh, awesome. That's really.
Yeah, considering a bed went through the floor, we bounced into the wall, we did a lot. We did some damage, but we fixed it. This is shout out or highlight. Is there any one person that stood out to you on set?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I don't, not to be biased and like choose our department, but man, Alejandro, dude, like,
Right.
man, Alejandro was just, he was the right hand and the left hand. He was everything. There was things like, sometimes I'm just so excited about something. I just want to do it. And he's just like, hold on, wait, we have to take, measure twice, cut once. He is very Alejandro. So with things like, the breakaway table, I will never get over this, is just, I needed to have a breakaway table because even though it wasn't on the prop list, I'm like, how good would it be if they're fighting and then he just like wrecks this thing? And he made that out of like cardboard and some wooden dowels. Yeah. And we got some wooden wallpaper and made it look like a wooden table. And
I
it was
have no idea.
great. It was phenomenal. It was great. He took my what I wanted and he made it real. And then he made it so that we can reset it each time, reset it well, I don't, if it wasn't for him, like, I don't know. I think I would have drowned.
No, he was literally, you knew that you wanted him on your team too. You were very clear from the beginning. You were like, I'm going to need someone and I really want to, team up with Alejandro Avila. His interview Sunday, so you have to tune in.
Ooh, can't wait.
Yeah, I have so many great things to say about them. Obviously, gratitude dinners for years and years and years to come. So many, everyone did something just phenomenal on set,
There's also just like support, like there was a time on Miss Deb's set that I was just like, I made a mistake. I think I brought like the wrong pieces, or I was missing a piece of something of the curtain rods. And I was just like almost getting frantic and stuff and just like doing all these, that thing in your head that you start doubting yourself and you start downward spiraling. And just out of nowhere, I think Kevin Forte, he just stopped me and he was like, you're doing great. You're doing the best that you can do. And I was like, I think the first word in my head, because I was trying to talk myself down, was like, I know. But it was like, he noticed that and he was just like, talked me down, and that support was, you rarely get to have that support on set. Everyone's really stuck in their own minds. So
that's great.
How many more shout outs do I get to have?
In the world of, I'm going a little off script, but pride in the process is the theme. What are you most proud of with the whole filmmaking? It could be PMP related. It could be in general.
That's really good. What am I most proud of in this film? Are you saying, or just?
It could be in general. It could be in the film. Like, I'm incredibly proud of the fact that I really wanted to challenge myself with a period piece. I wanted to work with animals. I wanted to work with children, and then throw in a firearm, fish, picture cars, domestic violence scene, and quite a few other
most of the things that nobody wants to have, right? No, nobody wants to do.
So
Why
I'm
not?
incredibly proud that, you know, I got to check off a bucket list of filmmaking, you know, wants, like strong desires. And I still, in this film, I have about 13 more big checklist things that I want to do, which is an arson scene, a sexual violence scene, you know. And why do I want to do these heavy scenes? Because they're incredibly raw. They can be very intelligent if they're filmed right. And we can go into that character's psychology by way of their behavior. So I love that psychological connect. You know, I've watched the film quite a few times now in post, and the acting is so good. Like I look at myself in the reflection and my face is just, you know, I'm having a full-on response to the film.
It was very intense, extremely intense being in the room with the actors that played Sherry and just being in there. Even in the rehearsal, I mean, every single time was just, there was crying. And I think from both of us, I was crying and she was crying because it was just really intense. And she brought it every single time.
Every time. Absolutely. So yeah, and the whole filmmaking process, is there something you're proud of, or it can be project related?
Oh, well, I mean, I think it has to be like, it's kind of general, but maybe it just has to be just taking the job, because I was almost scared. You know, I didn't have that much experience. I didn't have that much experience in this type of genre. And I remember you were asking me for a reel, and I was like, oh, I don't have a reel. What is that? I thought only, you know, I didn't have a reel. I didn't have anything in like trauma, anything gritty. It was all just nice stuff that I've worked with. And I didn't think I was cut for it. But I wanted that challenge. I wanted the experience so bad. And I think if it wasn't for you, like talking me down and like, hey, you're not going to get the experience unless you take the experience. So what's it going to be? You know? And so I finally, you know, put my big girl pants on and I was like, all right, cool.
You took your own advice. You said yes to the job. And
exactly.
now you have a reel.
Yeah. Now I have a reel.
And sometimes that's all it takes, is it's that one more job to get you the experience that's the missing link to, you know, who knows what comes next. I remember the first film I ever did was a horror, and I literally got contracted to shoot a children's show after, because of how unique I problem solved inside of that horror film. They thought I would be able to bring the production value up inside of this children's show. And indeed I did. And I had it was wild. I was like, I don't know how you're crossing these paths, but you never know what that one job, those opportunities, you just don't know. So just say yes to the job.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Samantha and her being the main character, but what we're being introduced to in the proof of concept short film is all of her worldly characters, everyone who's influencing her. We haven't quite understood her, but we get little like snippets of who she is. In the bedroom and with Miss Deb, we start to see her reactions and her behavior. But let's talk about the motivation for the film. Is about generational trauma. It's dealing with heavy themes like mental health, substance abuse, animal cruelty, domestic violence, and more. Mm-hmm. You know, it just hits heavy. Samantha, we're following her to see if she's a cycle breaker. So what makes a cycle breaker? Like, what characteristics does a person have to break out of the cycle? And why do so many people stay? You know, it's all they know. But it's all a cycle breaker knows too.
Yeah.
There's just something different. It's the it factor, right? We don't know what it is. But I was talking about it with many people, with myself, with others. For me, it's a sense of identity. If you don't have a sense of yourself, like an awareness, the self-awareness, you may not be able to consider anything outside of what you know. Because if you're heavily influenced, you'll very easily stay in the cycle. Because I think there's two types of people. There's people who are like the world is happening to them, and then there's people where they are happening to the world. So what makes a cycle breaker in your mind?
I think that there takes a certain amount of like self-awareness, and in the aspect of what you're saying, like the world is happening to them or they're happening to the world, you have to be able to like look and at some point kind of like wake up and like realize, why does this keep happening to me or around me? Is there something that I can do about this? Can I get out of this, and how, you know? But if you don't have that like awareness, or, you know, you're just stuck, and sometimes people feel that comfort, like it doesn't matter how bad that environment is, that's all that they know, and that might be comforting for them. So yeah, maybe awareness, and realizing what's happening.
Because I think you don't even have to know the answer, right? Like you can go towards the unknown, but you have to have some kind of hope, or you know, something light at the end of the tunnel, mindset. Oh, mindset might be the thing.
Oh yeah.
That allows you to kind of fight for that next step, for that unknown, to go towards, to say yes to the job, right? Like this unknown element of, maybe I'm not prepared, maybe I'm not experienced enough for this, maybe. In a cycle breaking, you know, they say psychologically, women have to have something, this ridiculous percent, right? Like 90 to 100% of the qualifications, requirements for a job before they'll apply. For the male mind, their percentages, they could have 20% of the qualifications, they'll still apply. There's I don't know if it's a confidence, you know, just an A to B, like I want the job. But women's psychology is, oh, it said I needed a blank before a male brain says, I don't have that, but I have this. Maybe they'll look at me.
Yeah.
I love that. So it's like, approach the masculine mind as in, go for it. Like, even if you're not pre-qualified for every single thing that it says, you may be excellent at some other things and be able to, you know, contract out those other things you're not good at until you are good at them, or whatever have you. But isn't that wild psychologically?
Oh yeah. And I think that brings up a great point, mindset. If you have a mindset of, if you have awareness but not the mindset, then you're realizing what's happening, but you don't have the mindset to be able to change, or you don't want to, you're afraid to. So that might go hand in hand. That's a really great point.
Yeah, because I was thinking too that you must need some drive or motivation. There has to be something propelling you forward. Because if you're seeing people, say you come from a lazy household, and that's just a common, you know, that's just what you're used to, but you're uncomfortable with it, you have to, there has to be a drive to change it, to change that behavior. So, and they say it takes 28 days. In the case of pit bulls and piranhas, I think it would take these little more than 28 days to change some of these habits.
Oh yeah.
They're deeply ingrained. But yeah, I find that so fascinating. Thank you for talking to me about cycle breaking. That's what the overarching film is about, is whether or not this young girl cycle breaks in the midst of all of the chaos and the generational trauma and everything that comes her way. So I have a question for you that's really for me, but I want to know from you, because what emotions do you hope the audiences get? What will the audience experience while watching this film?
Oh, that's tough, because are they expecting this or not? If they're expecting this, then, you know, what will they experience? I don't know. I feel like when I read about Samantha, I'm just like, dude, I want her to make it. And that's what I honestly, I hope that they feel like what's gonna happen next. And I feel that they feel hope, and like definitely not excitement, because it's not that type of film, but really just hope.
Yeah.
I you know, that she can break it, and that she fights back, because honestly, I feel like she's kind of a badass, you know. She's a kid, but she's a kid in like with this grown mentality. Like she I feel like she has no fears. You know, she's gonna take the job, she's gonna do the things, and she's gonna do what she wants. And I hope that when they see it, they have hope for her.
Yeah, I wrote the disclaimer today for the live audience. It's really good. It's a couple of sentences just about, you know, if, you know, the intention is to make you feel uncomfortable. There are some disturbing scenes, and it's not the kind of disturbing that's like horrific. It's a real life disturbance. So it can be even more disturbing because it's meant to look very real.
Okay, right.
I didn't say all that, but I say in a short line. But I think that's, you know, if they want to see more, we've done our job. Our mission complete. They want to see more. And I don't know how we can do this. I was thinking of throwing in a social experiment at the screening, is if by a show of hands, or if after the credits, if people would stand, if this is their niche movie. If they loved it, they want to see more for sure. They love the craziness and the chaos and the, you know, and whatever have you. And just the other people who this really isn't the movie for me would just stay seated. So I can just take a scan of the room, because we're doing an anonymous Q&A after.
Oh, cool.
But I would love to know, but will people be honest?
Yeah, maybe that would be something part of the Q&A then, because some people might stand up to be nice, or
Yeah.
you know,
because there's people like me. This is my niche. I love these kind of movies. I love visceral, make me
raw real life.
Yeah, like I love being uncomfortable and slightly disturbed. You know, I've watched a ton of horror and psychological thrillers and this and that. I love when I have to, like, did I lock my door? And I have to go to the door. I love that feeling. Where I'm genuinely concerned. And I've had moments where I've yelled at the TV, and I have a feeling there might be a couple like, no, don't do it in the screening.
Yeah, for sure.
Because some of the content is. And then on your personal question side, what is the greatest lesson you've learned in your life?
Oh my goodness. Oh, that's tough. Oh, dang. Oh, dang. The greatest lesson that I've learned. got to be something with people, and like I want to say something along the lines of like, I've like tried like so hard, or I would always have a tough time with, why can't people like break these cycles? Why can't they do the things that they want to? Or but it's not up to us. It's not up to me on like, you know, if it's easy, it might be easy for me, but that's not them, So there was something that I'd heard on this song, this Childish Gambino and Beck song, where he says you can't turn traumas into nirvanas, and that was like the light bulb. It's like you cannot change things unless someone wants to change or make those changes. You cannot do that for them. That's up to them. And why is it up to me to want to change those things if they're happy, So that's probably the greatest lesson.
Wow, I love that. So many things come to mind. I want to share a quote that came in today. It said, "Art is shadow work that transmutes pain into beauty." So I started doing shadow work right at the front of 2020. And I don't know if you're familiar with that term. It's a therapeutic aspect of like journaling. Essentially, you're asking yourself questions that are very deep, and they are meant to be to engage with, how people say skeletons in your closet, or you danced with your own devil. It's to get to know your dark side. So shadow work is to fully understand and accept yourself for all of the light and all of the dark. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, when I read that, because PMP, Pit Bulls and Piranhas, is that for me. It's a way to do shadow work where I get to artify something that is life imitating art imitating life. It's like the most beautiful poem to me. And it was something I had to do. It wasn't like, oh, you can do this or you cannot. It was this bizarre feeling. I don't know how to express it or what people's belief systems are, but it's as though you are struck by lightning. All that energy is contained, and you must complete said project. And everything that could get in the way did. Every challenge that could ever happen happened, and every breakthrough also happened. So therefore, it is now ready to be seen.
Yeah.
But I have no idea how much to care. Like, what is the healthy amount of caring for the audience response?
That's true, right? What's the healthiest? The most important person's opinion, I don't know, is your own. Really, are you happy with it when you watch it? Because at the end of the day, you're the only person that you made it for. You're gonna find your audience at some point. When we put it out there, there's gonna be other people who love this type of film, and that's really all that matters. It's gonna find its group.
Yeah, that's true. And final question is, if you had a magic door that opened to anywhere, where would you want it to lead you?
Ooh, that's good. I want to see the other side, because nobody, like the afterlife.
Okay.
Nobody knows what's on the other side. Nobody knows what happens, and I would love to have that answer. What goes on over there? What I have to expect? Who's over there? I don't know. That's what I'd like to see.
That's a great answer.
Why would other people say?
There's so many responses, but yeah, I want all the doors. I want many, many, many doors. But essentially, I want them to open up to all of my joys and my pleasures and the people that I love and the food that I love and the activities I love. And so just having like a joy box of diversity, you know, but also like having a door that open to everyone who's here and who isn't that you've loved, you know. So it's like kind of this reunion of the souls, because these people are parted from this world, right? This one and only that we know. But I don't believe in all that. I think there's so much more dimensionally. So I feel you on that afterlife door. Yeah, that would be cool. And then, yeah, because you'd have the answer.
Mhm.
Oh, that'd be so lovely. I once, at the end of the interview, I said, "Do you have any questions for me?" And it shocked her. I was like, I should let people know if they want to ask me anything, they can. But other than that, that was our final.
Ooh, well,
You successfully completed a whole interview.
yay!
Yay!
I made
How do
it.
you feel?
I feel good. It's nice. It's always nice talking to you. I'm glad that we were able to talk about the film and let everybody know like all the hard work that we,
So much work.
yeah, that we sweat and cried into, and yeah, it's really nice. It's always
Yeah.
nice to talk about film and the work that we do.
Yes. And like I said, I just beyond adore you, appreciate you. There's things I know you did. There's things I don't know you did. I love it all. And you have that attitude just of gratitude all the time, you know, and that's so just, it's comforting, it's delightful, it's energizing. And so, yes, say yes to the job and bring all of that, because that's what made me just absolutely, and I was in awe of you for production days, you know, still am, but I'm in awe watching you really, because you work. You know, there's nothing easy about production designer. You know, there's nothing easy about it's tough work.
Yeah.
So thank you
Thank
so
you for that.
much, Leo.
No, thank you for, thank you for the support, really, really, and the attitude of gratitude, because I really am just grateful. I'm incredibly grateful to just have been part of that film, to have been able to take part in something like this. It was a huge challenge just all around, and I'm just grateful that I was able to be part of it. I really am. Thank you.
Absolutely. Cheers to being friends now. I adore you. All right. We are signing off of all of the streaming lands.
Bye, guys.